mental. When life gets loud and nothing seems as simple. Make sure your mind and your mental. Focus on where you're headed, not just what you've been through. Nobody knows you like you do. And God will help to see you through. Be the first one to give yourself a helping hand. Just take a chance by minding your mental. Get behind that wheel and take control. You only have one life, don't let it pass you by. It's really that simple. Let's start by minding the mental.
Good evening, everybody. Reverend Benita Weathers here, your host of Mind the Mental Monday. I hope that everybody is having a wonderful Monday. I hope that everybody was able to enjoy their Mother's Day. I know that for a lot of people, it's a tough day. And then for a lot of people, there's a joyous day. And then for a lot of us, it's somewhere in between, right? There's kind of a mix of things. I'm sort of in that group. I'm in that group of, on the one hand, um, I miss my mom. I miss having been able to just go to see her on Mother's Day, which was my thing. That was always my Mother's Day gift, was to go and see her and spend time with her on that day. And now that she's not here, it's a little bittersweet. But on the other hand, having my children, my grandchildren, my husband, who just, I feel like I get Mother's Day every day, honestly. I feel like I feel loved all the time, which is a blessing. But I had a fantastic day yesterday. I preached for a Women's Day celebration at Eternal Life Missionary Baptist Church in Philadelphia, and it was such a lively service, and the women were all so beautiful and so welcoming, and I really enjoyed myself there. And then I came home, and my husband fixed this elaborate meal that included some cream of crab soup. Now I'm telling you, if we had gone to a restaurant and I went and got some cream of crab soup, it would have had like two pieces of crab, two little slithers of crab meat in it, and the rest of it would have been cream. But this had crab meat in it, and we would have paid an arm and a leg. And so to get some cream of crab soup and some Chilean sea bass, what? Man, it was really good. So, um, but I hope that everybody was able to, find some joy in their in Mother's Day. And really, Mother's Day is a day that we sort of celebrate women, because you don't have to have given birth necessarily to be a mother. We have, as women, we sort of mother the world, really, in a variety of capacities. So it's just good just to be able to celebrate women. And don't worry, men, we're gonna get to you. You got your day coming next month, okay? All right. All right. So, let's talk tonight about I want to talk about when life changes the script. And I really this was one of those nights that, to be honest, first of all, I'm really kind of exhausted, really kind of tired. And so, I had to kind of get my energy up, and I was just sort of like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about tonight. But what I started to think about was, I'm actually thinking about my daughter, my oldest daughter, um who tore her meniscus, and she has a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And you can imagine that, with being in the level of pain that she's in, and not being mobile, how difficult that might be, even though she has a terrific partner who is holding it all down, right? He's taking care of everybody in the household. And so I've been trying to going back and forth and trying to give him a little bit of a break and helping out with the kids and so forth. But one of the things that she talked about was, that she was going through like a little bit of a kind of a depression in a way when all of this happened because she had all of these plans, right? Of things that she had planned to do. And then this happened and it just sort of put a pin in all of it, right? And but the way that she sort of handled it is handling it, I should say, um, was a reframing of how she thought about it because initially she was just sort of, down and out, really. And just, all those thoughts that come through to your mind of like, why this? Why now? With all the things that I had planned and, that she wanted to do. And she started to reframe it and sort of think about, well, maybe this is just, God is sitting me down for a reason. He's sitting me down because he needs me to hear from him. And maybe God is redirecting my course. And now, and so even though she's still in an excruciating pain, and please pray for her. She will know, I think, tomorrow she sees the surgeon, so she'll know when her surgery will be scheduled. But right now, she's been in this pain for like a month. This has been going on between it happening, getting to the doctor, it took a while for her to be able to get the scan, the ultrasound. That's not the ultrasound. What am I talking about? MRI is what I'm trying to think of, to find what exactly happened, what the issue was. Now she knows the issue. Then she had to go back to the doctor for the doctor to tell her to go to this surgeon. And you got to in between all of that is you got to wait until you can get in to see the doctors that she needs to see. So tomorrow she'll see the surgeon. Hopefully the surgeon will say, "Okay, I've got these dates open for the surgery, and hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later." To get the surgery done and over with, and so that she can, heal and kind of get back to life as she knew it. Um, but oftentimes in life, these kinds of things happen, right? But before I might have framed it as, life be lifing, right? Coming at it from a slightly different perspective. But there are times where in our lives where we make the grandest plans, right? Like we are going to do this and we're going to do that. And I joke around and I laugh, at my little saying when I end Mind the Mental Monday, I always say, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. But I really mean that. Like it is biblical as well to say basically, if the Lord wills, this is my plan because we just never know what can happen to kind of throw our plans to the wind. And then we have to pivot as which became very popular over the pandemic, right? People had to figure out how to pivot, especially people that were in careers where they made their money basically by like performing or being in front of large audiences. They had to figure out, okay, I can't get in front of an audience right now. So now how am I going to make up this income? Or at least a part of that income that I might be losing, right? And so, people had to learn to how to pivot. But pivoting really starts in the mind, right? It starts with shifting the way that you're thinking about whatever it is that you're going through. So you can choose to wallow in, in pain, or you can choose to have the mindset of, this should never have happened. I'm supposed to be doing this right now, and because this happened, I'm not able to do it. And you can kind of go down that rabbit hole. And maybe in the beginning, that's what you need to do, right? Just you need to get that out your system because you're going through all kinds of emotions around it. You might be angry about it. You might be sad. You might be hurt. There's a loss involved. So there's some grieving even because it is a loss. When you lose mobility or you lose the ability to do something that you really had your heart set on, it can really devastate you. And so I don't want to belittle that. I don't want to come across like I'm saying, oh, just get over it. No, no, it is a process that you have to go through. So let yourself go through that grieving process, that process of loss. Let yourself, be angry, all the things that you might need in order for you to make a full recovery from it. And once you've had an opportunity to get out those things that you out of your system, those things that you want to get out of your system, then you have an opportunity to sort of shift your mindset, shift your way of thinking about whatever it is, and trying to make a positive recovery out of it. So my daughter, said, okay, yes, she went through the tears and she went through the being upset and all of that. And there's still some of that there. That hasn't totally diminished, but she's in a much better headspace because she trusts God and she believes God for what is to come. And so what she has decided to do is to take this time of being somewhat immobile as an opportunity to get closer to the source of everything. And I can't tell you how excited I am about that and how proud I am of her. Because it's been a journey. It's taken a journey to get to this level of spiritual awareness and growth. So as a mom and as a mom who relies on faith for everything, I'm very happy and proud of her for how she has decided to handle what has been thrown at her. And so a lot of times in life, we have already written the script, right? We've written the script of what, in the next year I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and a lot of times we frame them as being goals, right? When we write our goals out and we say these are our short-term goals, right? This is what I want to happen, short-term goals and long-term goals. So the long-term goals are, might be, okay, in the next 5 years, I'll use myself as an example. In the next 5 years, my goal is to retire from my job, really retire this time, actually retire from my job now, not from all the other things. But to do that, right now, I have to have some short-term goals. I have to look at my financial goals and I have to work a financial plan to make sure that I'm in a place where when I retire in 5 years, we're not like struggling, right? There are things that I don't know when the expiration date will be for my life, but I know that one day it's going to expire from this earth, and therefore I don't want my kids to be having to struggle and look for things and not know where things are. So, it's like getting everything, making sure I have everything organized in a way that they can just go pick up this box that I ordered, with all the important materials in it, that they can just pick it up and go through it and they know everything is there that they need, right? We don't like to think about dying. What's that? We say everybody want to go to heaven, but don't nobody want to die, right? But you kind of got to die before you go there. And so there will be an expiration date, and I want us to be sure to be prepared. That is actually a good part of Mind the Mental. And I'm gonna find I need to I know some people that I would like to invite to talk about that, preparing for end of life. Because what it might not be a mental a mind the mental for the person who deceases, because once they're deceased, all them worries are gone. But the people that are here, the people that you love, the people that have loved on you and have supported you, you want to leave them in such a way that they are not scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. What do you want for do you want a going away service? And how do you want it to look? And where are your insurance policies? Do you have insurance policies? How is it going to get paid for? All the things that we really need to be thinking about. And it's something that is important to plan ahead of time because again, we don't know when the expiration will be, and there are times where the expiration is like that, right? It's sudden. And so we don't want to put those kinds of things off. That's when life really changes the script. When in your mind, right, you have written the script that this person is going to be here. You just think they're going to be here forever, or you think you're going to be here forever, right? And there are people that are depending on you. And when you're thinking about those people that kind of depend on you in some way, you you want to preserve their mental health because they're going to be grieving. And so to pile on top of the grieving, where are the insurance policies? Well, how are we going to pay for the funeral? What are we like to pile all of that on top of the grief? Is something that I don't think people mean to do that, but I think that we don't like thinking about it. But we got to think about it. We really need to be thinking about that. So, that's kind of where I am. And so we have to be able to write the script in such a way that it can be fluid. Now, for me, I have decided from my faith perspective that I'm going to surrender it, right? Surrender my script to the Holy Spirit. And so I really go into prayer and really try to hear from the Holy Spirit. Okay, what do you want me to do? What direction do you want me to go? What are things that I need to do to plan to go in that direction so that I can be prepared, and the Spirit prepares me. Before He opens a door, He gives me what I need. When that door opens, and I can step right into it and I can do whatever it is, right? So, and so if those of us who are in faith, who have a faith background, I can only speak from the Christian faith background because that's who I am. I would encourage us to do what the scripture says, which is walk in step with the Holy Spirit. And that's not to say that life is gonna be always be easy. It's not gonna say that walking in step with the Spirit means that the script won't change. But what it'll mean is that when the script does change, the Spirit will be walking with you, and you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be all right. And you will be able to make that turn. It's like, oh, I thought I was gonna make a left over here. Like Bugs Bunny would say that make that I didn't make that right turn at Albuquerque. He would always say, or the left turn or whatever the turn. Sometimes we might miss, the turn that we think we're gonna make. Maybe that road is closed. So now we got to figure it out, right? Now we gotta go in a different direction, and take a different route. And sometimes that's uncomfortable, that's uneasy, especially if it's a route that we're not familiar with. But in faith, we can trust that the Spirit is going to lead us in the right direction and down through the right paths. Um, so sometimes, when we plan things and it doesn't, things don't, something happens that causes those plans to not happen. It can really be cause an emotional strain. And we have to then utilize those tools. Um, Go back to one of the earlier episodes where I sort of talk about some, just some tools. I need to say, and with all these fundamentals, and I haven't said this in a while, so I need to remind people that while I am a mental health advocate, I am not a licensed mental health um, therapist or counselor. While I have a degree in health behavior and health education, and while I do, try to read and stay up on the latest in the mental health world, I am not a licensed mental health therapist. So the things that I talk about here are not meant to sort of displace you finding if you need a therapist, um, going, looking for a therapist. I am a life coach, which is different than a therapist. So I just really want to be clear about that. Um, and as a coach, when I speak with clients, and as I'm speaking with them, it appears that they are really needing some kind of help where a licensed mental health professional is needed. That is how I'm going to guide them. I'm not going to sit there and pretend that I am, you know, educated in that realm. So I just wanted to make that caveat and make that clear. Um, but there are some tools that mental health tools that you can use that can help you when you find yourself getting into a place or space where you feel like life has flipped the script on you. And it's hard because when our plans are disrupted, it can make us even question ourselves sometimes, right? It can make us question our worth. It can make us question our direction. Like, wait, I thought I was clear that this is the direction I needed to go and that this was what needed to happen in this timing. But now this comes up and it's not. So what is it? And that's when things like that happen, that's when I have honest conversations with God. Like, God, you told me that it was going to happen like this. And um and then sometimes God has to remind me that no, Benita, that's not what I said. That's what you wanted. That's what you conjured up in your head because that's what you wanted. And that's how you wanted it. But no, I'm giving it to you this way. And so, so it can make us even question our faith. And I've been there before and I've talked about that before, so I'm not going to talk about that right now, but I've had those moments where I really felt like I was getting a clear message from God to go in a certain direction. And then it's like I got cut off at the knees. Like, and then it's kind of like, well, what God, I didn't, that's what you told me to do, right? This is what you said. And yeah, I have those very honest conversations with God because I had a kind of relationship with him because he's my father. Like, what? He's my creator. So I feel, like I can talk to him. Like, I don't know what's up. Like, what's going on? I need you to talk to me. But then I also have to be aware that I need to shut up so I can hear from him. Right? He's saying, Benita, and when I not hear from him with these two ears, but hear from him with my heart and surrender and be accepting of what it is that he is tasking me with. And sometimes that can be hard. And sometimes it makes us even question our future. Sometimes it makes us question whether or not we even have a future. What does that look like? And so there are all kinds of things that can come in our heads when life flips the script on us. But it's important to understand that we have what we need, right? We have the tools that we need to in those moments go with the flow, go with the flow of life. And just like being, in in the river. You're going to, if you just float and just let the water take you, the water is just going to take you in the direction that the current is flowing. And so sometimes in life it has to be that way. And sometimes we might feel like, ooh, if I don't take some control here, if I'm just on back floating, if I don't take some control here, I might be overcome and drown. But sometimes you just have to trust by faith where life is taking you. And that's not easy all the time. And so, you know, I talked about how, there's grief in that like when you have something planned and you feel like you've made some solid plans and then they get disrupted, there's a loss because you were excited about the plan and you were looking forward to the plan, and then it gets cut off, and then it's like, well, what now? Right? Kind of leaves us in that like what now kind of mode of what am I going to do now? And so sometimes, the way that we respond to the flipped script really can make or break us, right? So some responses that we might have, one response is panic. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Right? And then, trying to, fix it really quick, or making decisions out of fear, or making quick decisions without really thinking them through, or overthinking the decisions you're making because you're like, wait, I had this plan, so now what am I going to do? How am I going to do this now? Um, Another response we might have is isolation. Like we might just separate ourselves and pull away from others because, especially if it's a situation where we've now bragged about this thing that we were going to do, right? We done told everybody this is what's going to happen, and then after we done told everybody, then it don't happen. That can be very embarrassing, and that can cause us to withdraw and isolate. And there are times where withdrawing and isolating are good, but there are times where withdrawing and isolating aren't good. When you feel embarrassed about something, I guarantee you, if you go and tell somebody else how embarrassed you are about it, I guarantee you they're going to one up you. They're going to say, "Well, this is what happened to me, and yeah, it was embarrassing." So when you can just own up to how you feel, own how you feel. I'm embarrassed. I've told everybody, about all that I had planned and this thing that I was planning to do, and now I did it, and I have that testimony right now with my nonprofit. Like I had it's like I did the nonprofit, I established it, I got my board members. I started doing the work that I wanted to do in schools around it. But at the end of the day, it wasn't enough. I needed funding. In order to get funding, you have to have shown that you've done something, right, to get to get the funding that you need and that sort of thing. And it just was really hard. It was difficult to try to do that at the same time, working a full-time job and all the other, my ministerial duties and all that kind of thing. It was just really hard to try to do it all. And so I kind of had to move that to the back burner for now. I haven't given up on it, but I've had to kind of put the brakes on for now. And really I need to kind of redesign my original plan. And so things happen, and you have to be honest about what happened, honest about how you feel. I have to honestly say, I mean, I felt like a real failure. There's part of me that wanted to go bury my head because I felt like, I had a vision, for how I thought that it could turn out, and it didn't come to play that way, largely because I didn't have the time, or and didn't have funding to like pay a staff, to do things that really needed to be done. And so, I just had to make that decision that I need to just pump the brakes and be okay with that. Um, and so we can isolate and be embarrassed, but at the end of the day, people understand that in our humanity, we can't do everything and be all things to all people. Um, Self-blame. We blame ourselves sometimes when sometimes it is just like, life happens. I mean, did my daughter, intentionally do something to tear her meniscus? Absolutely not. Did she know that was going to happen when it happened? Absolutely not. But it did. And so, sometimes we blame ourselves for things that really aren't our fault, per se. And so we have to kind of work through those emotions and understand, okay, there's nothing I could have done to prevent this. And so since it happened, now I have to figure out how to work through it, how to get through it. And there is an other side of through. There is a through the storm, right? There is, when those storms happen in life, when you keep moving, you get to a place where it's not raining. The clouds aren't there, right? So we just have to keep remembering that life is much that way. Life is a journey, and in that journey, you're going to come under some rain clouds sometimes, and sometimes it's going to pour to a place where you can barely see. But you still need to inch along and keep moving, and then you'll get to a place where you can see clearly. It's still raining, but you can see a little more clearly, and then you keep moving a little further. Well, now, oh, the sun is out. I can see much more clearly now, right? So we have to remember that life is similar to that. Sometimes we can have when things like this happen, when we um when that script is flipped on us, when we when we flip that script, sometime or life flips the script on us, we can have an emotional shutdown. Like we can get to a place where we just feel numb, where it's almost like we just don't even care anymore. It's like, well, if this was going to happen, just forget it. Just forget all of it. You just feel numb. You just have no hope. But you have to find hope somewhere, regardless of, the changes that might be happening in your life that causes you that flipped. I keep saying that script to flip. Um, you have to hold on. You have to find your source of hope. And you have to hold on to that hope and not just hold on to it for the sake of holding on to it, but hold on to it while you are still moving, right? While you're still having some forward movement. It doesn't mean to hold on to it and shrink back and just stop. You still have your dreams, and you still have your hopes, and you're getting, you're waiting to hear some direction, for where you need to go and how you need to go and how you need to move, right? But you still have that. You're holding on to that hope. You're not giving up. Don't give up. Whatever you do, don't give up on life just because the script changes. Just like you learned the lines of the previous script, you can learn some new lines. You can. You have the ability to do that. So know that and don't give up. All right. Um, sometimes there's this way that we have of pretending, right? Pretending that everything is all right. I'm just going to pretend that everything's all right when I know everything is not all right. And sometimes it's like we want other people to view us as strong, right? But I'm always talking about the strong ones. I'm always talking about those strong people in your life. They are the main ones that need some checking up on, right? And so if you are that person, you are the one that is going to try to put on a strong face regardless of what you are going through. But last night, so my daughter and her family came over for dinner last night, and she was in excruciating pain. And today, one of her oldest daughter had an appointment, which was going to make it such that my daughter would need to be there and try to take care of a 2-year-old by herself while her partner took the other oldest daughter to the appointment. And, so I said to her, I said, do you want me to, I said, I can come over in the morning and help you out. And she said, okay, I'll take that, right? She said, oh, okay, I'll accept. Yes, I'll take that help. But then I remembered that I had told my husband that I was going to take him someplace in the morning to pick up a car that we're getting fixed for our other daughter. Really need to know all that. But um, so and she was like, "Oh, but well, it's okay. I can take care of her like just, for a little while. I'll be okay." But that thing was gnawing at me. I was like, "No, she not gonna be okay." Because I know how active that 2-year-old is, right? And when they left, I told my husband, I was like, "Listen, babe, can you just catch an Uber to the shop to pick up the car? Because yeah, and she need help, and I'm going down there to help." And that's what he did. He was like, "Yeah, I could take an Uber." And then he ended up not even going today. It's like, "Oh, we'll just go in tomorrow," you know. But it was like, but she was trying to keep up that I'm strong, I can handle this, I can do it. And I was like, yeah, no, we not doing that. No, she is not gonna be up there, trying to keep a 2-year-old from bouncing on that knee, right? Because that's what she wants to do. She wants to jump on mommy, and it's like, no, right? So we pretend not to be hurt, and when we do that, when we don't own up to the fact that we are hurting in some kind of way and that we need help, which was another episode about asking for help, we kind of skip the healing process altogether, because in order to get to the healing process, you have to go through the pain, right? You have to, if you have a cut um on your body, anywhere on your body, right? Depending on how deep the cut is, even a paper cut, takes some time for those cells to regenerate to a place where it's not going to sting when you wash your hands and you get that soap in it, or you put some alcohol on it, and it's, just a little paper cut. You put some alcohol on that little thing, woo, you're talking about pain. It stings, right? But in order to get to the healing, you got to go through the healing process. And the healing process is not always easy. Sometimes it requires some rehabilitation. Sometimes, it's more than just the surgery. It'd be nice if you could go to sleep, have surgery, wake up, and boom, you're back to normal. But no, when you go to sleep and you had that surgery and you wake up, sometimes you got to go to rehab to relearn how to do certain things, right? Do certain exercises that'll help you to get to a place where you are fully healed. Um, Good evening, Lisa. Good to have you back in the place again. I appreciate you so much. You said God will let you know when the right time is for your nonprofit. Yes, yes, indeed. And I truly believe that. And in fact, the Spirit has said to me, like, don't give up on it. So I keep it up. I keep the status up. Um, and yes, it'll be back. It'll be back. Thank you for that encouragement. I appreciate it. All right. So here's some things to do when life doesn't go according to how you planned. When life flips the script. One, as we talked about earlier, allow yourself to grieve. It is a loss, and you have to accept that loss. And you have to work through that loss, and you have to work through that grief that comes with that loss. All right. And so acknowledge it. Um, and because when you suppress those emotions, they be later in life as it'll become volcanic, right? So, make sure that you um allow yourself to grieve. Here's some questions you can ask yourself as you're going through that process. What exactly am I grieving? So, when life flips the script, what are you grieving? Are you grieving that the plan didn't go as you expected it to? Are you grieving that what you thought the outcome of that plan would be? Like maybe you thought if this plan happened that you would get some kind of recognition. Maybe you thought you'd get some kind of following, or you get, just some kind of tangible reward out of it. Like what exactly are you grieving? Grapple with that. What expectation did I lose? In this life script flipping? What expectation did I use? I'm having fun with those words, by the way. What part of my identity was attached to this plan? What part of your identity did you find was attached to it? Those are things that you have to grapple with as you are sort of grieving the loss of the thing that you thought was going to happen. The next thing is to separate this flipped script from your identity. That whatever happened, whatever the plan was that you had, just because that plan doesn't come into play, just because the plan doesn't come into fruition, doesn't change who you are. And just like you would have been able, that maybe you would have been able to handle that plan if it happened, you can also handle the detour. You can also get through this change of plans. If you can get through the planning process, you can get through a change in plans. And then you just have to plan some more, right? And so, just because a plan fails doesn't mean that you are a failure, right? So we have to detach those things. I did look at myself as a failure when I didn't really move forward in the way that I had planned with the nonprofit. I really did. I really um really viewed myself as a failure. I honestly didn't even want to face the people on the board because they believed in it. They were with me. I had a group of people who were solidly with me, and I feel like I let them down. They didn't feel that way, but I certainly did. And so I had to kind of really work through that. So, a delayed dream is not, it might be a dream deferred, but it's not necessarily a dream denied. It just means that this is not the right timing. And there have been a lot of times that things have happened in life that I thought this was going to happen and it didn't happen. And I was all upset. And, and crying and all emotional and, just all the things, right? Just mad about it and all of that. And then sometime later, it comes back around and I realize, wait, I'm much more capable of this now. I can really see this through now. Whereas back then, I couldn't have seen it through. Because I had all kinds of other stuff weighting me down. And so now some time has passed by. I've been able to kind of throw some of that other weight off my back, and now I'm able to do a better job than I would have been able to do back then. Um, so you understand this. Your current circumstance is a chapter. It's not the whole story. It's just a snippet of your life. It's not your whole life. When you look back on what you've accomplished over your life, you will realize that whatever it is, whatever this plan is that didn't go as planned, is just a drop in the bucket. And again, just because it's a dream deferred doesn't mean it's a dream denied. I don't know who said that. That's not my quote. That's not an original quote. So I won't take credit for that, but we have to understand that. The other thing that we do when things don't happen in the way that we planned is we always ask the question, why, right? Why didn't this happen in the time that I wanted it to happen? Why did this happen to me? Why am I going through this? We asked the why question, but there are some other questions that we can ask. We can ask ourselves, what can this teach me? What lessons can I learn from this situation? What needs healing in me? What do I really need to heal before I can actually do the plan and do it really well, right? Do it with excellence. What strengths am I developing as a result? I mean, sometimes when we don't get the thing and we're forced to turn a different curve and to go in a different direction and to do different things, along that journey, we are learning so much. We're getting so much more exposure and so much more experience. And so, now we're able to emerge in a new light, right? And so, what needs healing in me? We're able to heal through some things. What strengths am I developing and what new direction might be emerging? Because we never know, that new direction might be exactly where you need to be. And then when you get there, you realize that, man, God knew best all along. He always knew best, right? Um, and there is that hope that we talked about earlier. There is that hope that we can sort of cling to. Um, Not every detour is destruction. Sometimes it's redirection. Sometimes we need to be redirected. Like I said before, like God is that GPS. When we following our GPS system, we're on the street level. So all we can see is kind of what's immediately around us. And a lot of times if y'all are like me, when the GPS say do something that I'm not used to, and I'm like, why is it taking me this way? I ain't going this way. I'm gonna go the way that I know. Well, it's like, well, what GPS is probably like, well, what's the point? Why do you even have me on? If you just go and do your own thing anyway, but go on and do your own thing so you can find out what I have seen because I'm all the way up, I'm high up and looking over the entire area of where you're going. I can see what you can't. And that's how God is in our lives. He can see what we can't. So we got to trust him. When he moves things, when he detours us, it's a detour, but it's a detour for a reason. It's a detour that might keep us out of traffic, out of that pesky bumper to bumper traffic. He might be taking us around the traffic, but because of our stubbornness, we decide to go our own direction. And now we sitting, running out our $50 gas because just out of being stubborn. That happened to me this morning. When I was headed to my daughter's house, when I got off her exit, the exit was backed up, like all the way onto the highway. I've never seen it like that, right? And it was like it wasn't moving. So what I decided to do, where the exit was taking me left, I decided to I was in a place where I could move over to the right lane and go right. And so what I was going to do is go up and then do a U-turn and come back. Well, by the time I got through the left turn lights that would allow you to do that, man, I spent so much time. And by the time I did all that, if I had just stayed, if I just stayed patient and just stayed where I was, I probably would have got to her house at least a good 10 minutes earlier. But I wanted to. And so that's how God is with us. Like when we decide to go do our own thing, He'll let us do our own thing. Like if you have the GPS on, it can't force you to follow it. You got to make the decision to follow it or not, and that's your decision. And it's the same way with God. It's like it's your decision. I'm telling you to just stay put, stay right here, stay right in this lane. But no, you want to try to go around the situation. By the time you do all that, you don't waste time and gas. And God is like, I wasn't going to say I told you so, but there we are. All right. Um, Rebuild slowly though, right? When these things happen, sometimes we need to rebuild. We need to rebuild our confidence. We might need to rebuild our faith. We might need to rebuild our motivation. We might need to rebuild our trust. All of those things. Give yourself that time to rebuild, to heal, to rebuild so you can get to the place where you want to be. And then, don't necessarily already have an expectation of the outcome. Allow the journey to unfold as it unfolds. And that's not to take away from the need to be proactive, as my husband will always say, about, things that we do in life. We do want to make sure that we have some planning, but sometimes when those plans take a different route, be open to it. Be open to, taking a road that you've never taken before. Be open to taking a road that you didn't know existed. Um, because you never know what you might run into. You might run into some unexpected opportunities. You might have some growth through hardship. Sometimes, um, sometimes opportunities seem small. Some of what opportunities that might look like are on a small scale have generated the greatest benefit. So I'm looking at the grand thing, but meanwhile, I'm being directed to the thing that seems smaller and getting more out of it, getting more out of the experience. So let yourself experience the experience, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience. Learn something from it, grow from it, and allow yourself to do that. All right. So I think I'm going to just wrap up here. Um, I hope that, this has been a helpful topic. Let me know in the comments. I appreciate it when you all comment too. That because you're engaging with me, and that's what I want. I want you to engage. I want to know. And listen, I know that you know, eh, as I've said many times before, every time I find myself discouraged about like doing Mind the Mental Monday, somebody says, "Hey, I heard something on that you said on Mind the Mental Monday that made some kind of an impact." So I'm not there anymore. I'm at a place where, yeah, I might not hear from you. I want to hear from you. I want you to comment. I want you to share. I want you to do all the things. I want you to like, if you look at it on YouTube, like the episode. Even if it's on Facebook, yes, like it, love it, even share it. I do. I want all the things because I don't think that's asking for a lot. I don't. I don't think that's a big ask to do that. Uh, so I love for you to do that. But at the same time, I just trust God that God is working in it, in Mind the Mental Monday, and whoever needs to hear whatever it is that is being heard will get it, and that's good enough. Lisa says God is still writing the script, but we sometimes steal the pen. I like that. Yes, it has been helpful as always. Oh, thank you so much again, Lisa. I like that. I like that, Lisa. I like that. Sometimes we steal the pen. I might steal that, Lisa, but I'm gonna give you credit. Yes, God is still writing the script, but we like to steal the pen. So don't steal the pen from God, because God knows what we don't. Trust that. Trust that. Um, and just trust the journey. Savor the journey. Whatever the journey brings, it's gonna bring some good stuff, it's gonna bring some bad stuff. But savor it. It'll make life much, much sweeter. All right, so I hope you got something out of when life, flips the script. I don't think that's the actual thing that I called it. When life changes the script. But I wish I had said when life flips the script because I like that title better. I might title it that on YouTube. Um, but thank you all as always for joining. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. And I really appreciate those. And listen, Lord willing, the creek don't rise. I'll be back next Monday. Now, is it next Monday? Now, I think in 2 weeks, whatever date is Memorial Day weekend, that is also my anniversary weekend. My anniversary actually comes in the middle of the week, so it doesn't fall actually on the holiday this year, but it's the weekend that my husband and I, celebrate our anniversary. It'll be 31 years. Very excited about that this year. And so there won't be a Monumental Monday on Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully everybody will be somewhere minding their mental because they're going to be remembering our service people and how they have served us for all these years, and we will be remembering maybe fallen loved ones, but mainly fallen troops that have fought for us for all these years. So just to give you a heads up about that. Um, but that won't be till the following Monday. So Lord willing, the creek don't rise next Monday. I'll be back for another episode of Mind the Mental Monday. I pray that you all will have a blessed evening. Good night.
Are you minding your mental?